On this episode of CityView, Sister Cities, Austin and other local sister cities use music to commemorate the 10th anniversary of September 11th. Independence Day, the city celebrates Mexico's independence from Spain. And Austin City Limits will take you behind the scenes for a look at how the city prepares for this annual event. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Leslie Sopko. Those stories and more. But first, our top story. The City of Austin continues to address parking availability in downtown Austin. To encourage additional turnover of on-street parking spaces, the Austin City Council has voted to extend parking meter hours. Here's more from the city's transportation department.
Over the last 10 years, Austin has continued to grow, bringing more downtown visitors and with it more traffic. One way to help solve this problem is with a more efficient parking system. Traffic congestion occurs downtown when drivers circle to find parking. This clogs our streets, adds to pollution, and discourages drivers from visiting downtown. To help improve parking availability, parking time limits have been extended to evening hours. Time limits encourage drivers staying for longer visits to park in underused areas and garages. In downtown, parking meters will operate Monday through Saturday, and hours will vary based on the demand for parking. The new hours downtown are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Thursday and Friday, 8 a.m. to 12 midnight, and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12 midnight. In all other areas of Austin, parking meters will operate Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Drivers who choose to leave their cars overnight can buy time into the next day by pressing the yellow Next Day Purchase button. Simply place the receipt on your windshield showing prepayment. For every dollar you put in the parking meter, 40 cents goes toward downtown improvement projects. Also, more enforcement at night means more safety for our citizens.
There are about 3,000 on-street parking spaces downtown and more than 14,000 off-street parking spaces in surface lots and garages. And from getting more use out of parking spaces to getting more out of a name, the Solid Waste Services Department has announced a new name to emphasize its mission of zero waste. The department is now called Austin Resource Recovery.
We recognize that while we are talking about innovative strategies to reduce waste and repurpose it, we're still using the old names and the old presentation of our department. Our department reached out to the community for a fitting name for the services we provide, and the citizens had a lot of fun with it. I think in the analysis, we felt like this name really reflected our mission, that we're in the business of picking up and recovering resources that otherwise normally would end up in the landfill. We want to give a second chance to those materials, and therefore we felt this name, Austin Resource Recovery, really reflected our purpose.
As Austin works toward becoming a zero-waste city, the department is looking at new ways to reuse trash and promote recycling in our community. Austin Resource Recovery will continue to provide the same services you have come to depend on, including trash pickup, recycling, collection of yard trimmings, street sweeping, hazardous waste collection, and dead animal collection services. The City of Austin is committed to reducing the amount of waste sent to area landfills by 90% by the year 2040. And from helping the environment to helping our employees stay healthy, the City of Austin's award-winning wellness program has been reducing employee illnesses since 1994. The program offers a variety of services that help employees, retirees, and their families lead healthier lifestyles. More than 1,400 employees participated in a health and lifestyle expo recently held at Palmer Events Center. Of those, some 860 employees completed a health assessment, which included cholesterol and blood pressure checks. Other activities included bone density screenings and fitness demonstrations. And now it's time for our City Council update.
The Austin City Council continued to work through a decision about when to hold its next elections. Council approved spending roughly $500,000 on the purchase of electronic voting equipment for a May election. The city learned that additional voting equipment would be needed to accommodate an election in May. Council also approved a May election date for its next 2012 municipal elections. Council also approved 30 new social service contracts for a total annual cost of roughly $13.2 million. The contracts are for social services provided from April 1st of next year to the end of September 2014. These awards represent the first competitive social services process in over a decade and prioritize contracts that provide safety net and infrastructure services, a transition out of poverty, problem prevention, universal support services, and enrichment. You can find more information at austintexas.gov/health. Council also asked for a draft ordinance that would enable the city to enforce a temporary prohibition on smoking, campfires, grilling, and other fire hazards in city parks during an announced burn ban. Council found that the severity of the recent drought has made wildfires a serious potential hazard to lives and property, and the forecast calls for more abnormally dry weather through the winter. A violation of the proposed burn ban would constitute a Class C misdemeanor. The city manager must also analyze other properties within the city's full-purpose jurisdiction that are either managed or co-managed by the city to see whether the ban would apply to those properties. Council approved a pilot program to allow electric low-speed vehicles to operate for hire on a limited basis for the next year, at which time recommendations for a permanent program should be brought forward by staff. The pilot program is based on a comprehensive ground transportation study that was recently completed, which recommends a cautious approach to introducing this new form of transportation to our streets. The electric low-speed vehicle companies will have to apply through a competitive process for operating authority. They'll have to operate on a fixed route for a fixed fare and will have to maintain speeds below 25 miles an hour. The hope is that these vehicles will be able to fill gaps in our current mobility choices, such as late-night service, major events, and last-mile service to rail stations like Crestview, MLK, and Kramer. And Council heard a briefing from the Urban Parks Stakeholder Group. The group formed to discuss strategies for the city to provide a publicly accessible and child-friendly park within roughly a quarter-mile of residents in the urban core and within a half-mile of residents outside the core, with boundaries defined by highways 183, 360, and 71. The group worked on an analysis of where new urban parks are needed, which parks need improvements, strategies for incorporating more innovative and diverse play opportunities for children, cost projections, and needed resources and policies. In all, Council considered 80 items at its October 6th meeting. Its next regularly scheduled meeting will be October 20th. For CityView, I'm Larry Schooler.
Hundreds of Austinites came out to the Mexican-American Cultural Center on September 16th to celebrate Mexico's Independence Day, which recognizes Mexico's independence from Spain. The City of Austin was one of the sponsors of this year's annual celebration, which featured a special appearance by the Consul General of Mexico.
The significance of 16 de Septiembre is to remember how it came about that Mexico got its independence. And it took a few years to accomplish it, and we don't want to forget that. So that's why we keep on celebrating this festivity throughout the world. And it's the day of our national independence, so it's our national holiday. Oh, without the community, we would have no event. There is a committee called Fiestas Patrias, and we have fantastic members of the committee. Gloria Mata Pennington, who is very involved. We have Gus Garcia, former mayor of Austin.
We're here to celebrate the 201st anniversary of Mexican independence. September 15th, 1810, Mexico declared its independence from Spain. The War of Independence lasted about 11 years. But this is the beginning, where Father Hidalgo issued the grito, the famous grito. We want people to appreciate, learn something about the value of this particular date and why it is important to the history of the Americas, to Mexico and to other countries in Central America.
The most important part is, believe it or not the music, which is great, not the horses. We have the charros and the scaramuzas, not the female women in horseback. Not the entertainment, which is fantastic. We have brought a singer from Saltillo, who's called Navid, and all that is very, very beautiful. But the most important part is the actual reincarnation of El Grito, the same that Father Miguel Hidalgo went up the church and rang the bells, and he commanded the whole town to come and follow him in this rebellion. And that is the most important part, to revive history so we Mexicans and Mexican Americans who live abroad do not forget how it was that history happened to happen in that day.
The City of Austin is part of Sister Cities International, an organization that forges relationships between cities all over the world. In commemoration of the 10th anniversary of September 11th, Austin and other local sister cities came together to host a live musical performance known as the September Concert.
Oh, say, can you see?
The simple sound of an airplane, the loss of America's innocence.
So proudly
Firefighters running up the stairs while we were running down. Reflect, remember, renew.
The idea behind the September concert is celebrating peace and humanity. So it's not necessarily to mourn 9/11, but it's to look to the future. This is really an international day. People all over the world. When it first happened, the different committees had messages of well-wishing from all of our sister cities people. They really reached out to us, and we see it as an international event. Austin has had sister cities for 40 years. We started with one and added on, and we're up to 12 in Austin now. In today's world, we need to understand other cultures, and that's one of our main goals, is to bring other cultures to the citizens of Austin.
The Austin Music Event was just one of many taking place all over the world. The September Concert is an annual global event aimed at promoting world peace. Finally, the Austin City Limits Music Festival is local to Austin, but the event attracts people from all over the world. In the 10 years since its creation, ACL has developed into one of the nation's top music events. And it takes a small army to pull off an event of this magnitude. Channel 6 met up with Jason Maurer of the Austin Parks and Recreation Department to see how our city departments contribute to the event's success.
This is it, ACL 2011, 10th anniversary, and we're off. This is the best part before the festival starts because it's kind of the calm before the storm. Tomorrow at this time, there will be 65,000 people down here visiting our city, some for the first time from other countries, and loving everything they see. The weather's great. The grass is green. Through all the efforts year-round to plan and put this festival on the city side.
Here to welcome you all to the Austin City Limits Music Festival.
It's actually busier than I've ever seen it in the last few years.
Making sure that we had proper exits for that.
The city is about rules and codes and regulations. And this is an opportunity to see how we've taken and applied those to an event to get it permitted, to make it safe, and then see a result such as this. Right here, where we've got people enjoying our bureaucracy.
If you already have your wristband, make sure it's on your wrist as you enter the festival grounds so it can be scanned for entry in a wristband-only lane.
It's the close of the project for another year, and also at the same time the starting of the planning for 2012. Months before that, 2 months, we're meeting with the neighborhood, going over the final traffic control plans, getting their adjustments and their input from the notes we've had 6 months in front of that. So it's really a year-round process of meeting.
We're right below F9.
Coordinating, going over plans, adjusting safety and emergency plans as needed, continually meeting with the neighborhood to get their feedback on what's going on in the park.
He's been with us for the last 4 festivals. He comes every year.
And how it's affecting them.
Is there a way that I can get over to there?
You can't drive in here?
While 65,000 guests are here.
It's busy, and it's only 10:40, so it's going to get busier.
And this is really it. There's people here, they're pouring in already.
We have a little bit of issues with this year's. They could have gotten some bigger names, but...
Right at 11, it's excellent. It's kind of fun to see how this crowd thickens throughout the day over here. And then working directly with the organizers on the electricity and Austin Energy's input and the infrastructure in the park, parking, shuttles, you name it, everything comes into play, and that's really a year-round process. So there's a lot going on that people don't even think about. They show up here and the park looks nice, and that's because there's been an enormous amount of city staff down here working to make this happen. We really are doing a lot in making sure our parks are there for outdoor, cultural, musical, or recreational activities.
Thank y'all so much.
The Austin City Limits Music Festival is a huge economic booster for our community, bringing in some $30 million each year. And that's all for this edition of CityView. I'm your host, Leslie Sopko. Our next episode premieres Friday, October 14th. Thanks for watching.